sorry. We're trained in multimedia, online, broadcast, print, all that kind of stuff. But what I feel is that we've done these things, and it's on my CV, and that's what I'm finding is that that's the most important place for that to be. Whether I'm good at it or whether I'm done it in a while, out of practice, not good at it, is not so much important as to how well I do it. It's because people want to see a plethora of skills that one person can do. A recent interview I had, first question was, can you do shorthand? Second question was, do you have a blog? These are now questions that people are asking. It's, you go for a job, it's not so much whether they want you to do it, it's just a question of whether you can do it or not.
Still people are still asking about shorthand in this day and age as well. Sir Patrick.
I think the sad truth about the course that a lot of you have done, and also about user-generated content, is these things are driven by the economics of supply. The interest in user-generated content is not because there is a huge bated breath demand out there among the readership for UGC. It is that it's free and it's cheap. Sure, there's the exception, the picture from the tsunami or the eyewitness account, but these are the staples of journalism going back hundreds of years. We always tried to get the picture from somebody. We always tried to get the witness account. The reason, and Paul flagged this up earlier, the reason that managements of various organisations are interested in stuff because it won't cost them anything. Ditto, multimedia journalism. As a consumer, I'm not actually interested in reading a half-assed story, watching a half-assed bit of video and seeing half-assed pictures. I'm interested in expert writing, fantastic pictures and fantastic video. And I don't care as a consumer if it's been produced by 3 different people, but it shows the quality. I'm good at text. I'm hopeless at taking pictures. I'm hopeless at video. Dreadful. But it doesn't make me a bad journalist. And I do have shorthand. And a blog. But there is, just to pick up the point from the one person who's actually making a living and well played, and I'm really impressed. In Scotland, we have a multiplicity of readers, online and offline. We have a multiplicity of stories to tell. We have, I believe, among the best journalists in the world, and I would back that up by the fact that we populate every bloody newsroom around the world. So there is no problem in Scotland in terms of those elements. There is in terms of the culture of Scotland, which is digitally backward, especially the government. I mean, I've tried to get digital advertising out of them, hopeless. Ditto our big institutions. But there are models that work. There's one newspaper that makes a shitload of money, pays its journalists well, is committed to content, has a fantastic blog, a fantastic app. It's The Economist. It's got a completely different model from the haphazardly stumble into the newsagent and pick up what's good today. It's got a subscription model. There are models for making news profitable and for paying journalists properly. That we are in a state of crisis, yes. We are in a state of disrupted media, yes. But people have already found the answer. And what there is a complete lack of imagination in terms of newspaper management or funding to actually make the transition to the media of the future.
Sorry, go on the picked up there.
I was just going to follow on from what Christiana was saying to an extent, and just say that especially, I think, within Scotland, the newspapers that we have, the online presence is very much an afterthought. It's something that, alright, we'll just take that, stick it online, doesn't matter. Rather than thinking, because everyone's circulation is going further and further down, rather than thinking about how you can enhance content, and instead of thinking how you're going to save a sinking ship, think about how you can enhance something that's already there. That's, at the moment it just seems to be something that everyone should have, but not everybody knows how to manage.
Well, I can say from bitter experience, there is a will for digital to work in certain newspapers. When I was at the Records, Bruce Worrell and the management team there were desperately keen to do more with online. The problem's not at an editorial level, it's at a resource level. When you're bankrolled by paymasters in London, or when the resources aren't there, unfortunately you have to prioritise. Those who were at last month's press club remember Richard Walker talking about the Herald reprioritising what worked online and what didn't, and what they were investing in. I know for a fact that one of the most talented multimedia guys in the Record is considering leaving purely because he's unhappy with the way he's been treated. But it comes down to as a resources issue. People won't invest online because, as you say, they see it as an afterthought. It's not at an editorial level, it's purely at a financial level, and that's what, in many ways, is letting us down. There's not the investment. There's a will for it to work. I think certain people in this country do get digital at the senior level, and they see what the benefits are, but they're just not being supported by the people that actually pay the wages, unfortunately, and can make it doable.
Does that maybe sort of come back then to what sort of kicked off the problem in the first place, the fact that the digital presences are nothing more than verbatim the print stuff, and people are kind of looking at digital and thinking...
I agree with that. I mean, when I was at the record, we certainly were. You know, we changed the store, the front page on the website 5 or 6 times a day. We'd do unique content online. We would run online coverage through the night. We would cover breaking stories. You know, and it's in many ways the labour of love because you're a small team, but we would do it. You know, I think you know, you look at the Herald certainly used to. I imagine the Scotsman certainly, the Stuart certainly, certainly used to. You know, there is people who try and do it online properly in Scotland. I think the problem is that the resources have been shaved away to make it harder for them. But there is still a will to do it. I mean, STV, you know, I'm not going to, although I've left the company, I wouldn't in any way dispute what they've done online. I think, you know, Matt Roper and his team have gone balls to the wall in a lot of it in terms of covering stuff online, live stuff, which they have a small team and they have small resources to do it, but they have done a phenomenal job with it. The last election is a great example of it, where it was, you know, you look at the Scotsman, you look at the records, you look at STV and BBC, and they really tried to do something different in Scotland. Try or fail, succeed or fail, they at least tried to do something. I think there's a will there to do it.
I'm going to agree with Ian to a certain degree in respect to the investment, but I also detect a lack of willingness on so many editors to move to the online version, as well, as though they don't have control, and whether they're under pressure to generate income at a faster rate, and that's why they don't have the backing to take it on longer and put more effort into it. And there's lots of doom and gloom being discussed here tonight, but also in the industry about the number of jobs being lost and where people are going to be going. One of the areas of expansion, I believe, in the next few years is going to be broadcasting. You know, if you listen to Alex Salmond's speech when immediately after the election, and he talked about redefining the Scotland Act and looking for more powers for Scotland. The first thing that he said they wanted powers in Scotland over was broadcasting, and they will be expanding in that area, there's no doubt about it. The guy at the back mentioned Blair Jenkins and the Broadcast Commission. If you read into that, you look at what they're looking for. They're looking for a much wider investment and support for small independent filmmakers, for the things I was talking about earlier about documentary makers, what people are feeding into the news. And I do think that people should have hope in that, because I do think there's government support for that. Whether they've got the foresight to see that there's a downward spiral in the newspapers.
I'm sorry, but I'd absolutely disagree with that. If you read Blair Jenkins' report on the Scottish Digital Network, there's absolutely no support for independent filmmakers or producers in Scotland. It's all about creating an independent state broadcaster and having money off the licence fee to do it. There is that aspect. There is a lip service paid to supporting independent producers and supporting digital in this country, but the whole thing is driven towards creating its own state broadcaster. The actual SDN report and the Scottish Broadcasting Commission report 2 years ago was very different to what Jenkins produced earlier this year. And the SDN report, and it really does not do anything to benefit this industry in the media in Scotland other than launching a new TV channel. That's the only thing it does.
That is, there's that conflict between what they're looking for and what the industry are going to be demanding, and the clamour by the independents. I mean, that was at a couple of meetings of the Scottish Affairs Committee at Westminster, where a powerful lobby of small independent television companies and broadcasters were there saying this will only work if it's a genuine attempt to expand the creativity and to give these people the wherewithal to get access to the digital spectrum.
I agree.
So there's going to be a conflict within that, but I think regardless there will be an expansion of broadcasting.
There will be if they get the money from the licence fee, which is what's backing it. I mean, I've written on my blog that I think it's the biggest waste of money that the government could do. The best thing you can do in this country is take that 75 million quid and give it to everyone to give free broadband in this country. If you make everyone in Scotland digitally engaged, people will use digital and use it as a platform properly, because you then engage with people who aren't necessarily socially and digitally included. There's a big digital inclusive problem in Scotland. You look at the broadband take-up in Glasgow especially, it's something like 50%. And groups like the GHA have done experiments in using non-traditional digital methods such as Red Button to use as an engagement platform. I think that's what we need to look at if we're going to spend that kind of money to bring everybody in, and then we make this to a platform. Then there's a body for content production. And creating a TV channel does nobody any favours.
Well, I think it does do people favours because it creates more work and it gives people access to fill in that spectrum. We had a meeting with the BBC on Tuesday over this bizarre situation where they're making redundancies in online, 3 jobs at risk in Scotland, and the Union have threatened industrial action over it. And we know that as soon as those jobs are gone, that they're then holding a review where they're talking about investing in online. So one hand they're paying people off, but the next hand they then talk about expanding that service. So they are all over the place, no doubt about that. But I do think, like for example, one of the things we've argued for and we're looking for political support for is the bringing of the Red Button technology to Scotland. And one of the guys whose job's at risk in the BBC is one of the experts in the building on Red Line. So it's quite ironic, but that's the type of thing we're seeing. If you're genuinely interested in creating broadcast and digital jobs in Scotland, that is the type of initiative we have to put in place. And the broadband expansion, you're absolutely right. I think it's probably only 37% in Glasgow for broadband. But it's not just one decision. It's not just about creating a television programme. It's got to be an integrated approach to it. Yeah.
I think we should have a quick break there. I need to change the batteries.
Okay,
everybody? I'll do some karaoke if you want.
Sorry, save your love for me. Killing me softly.
Oh, I never thought you'd ask. Right, everyone's suitably seated and ready. We'll just kind of wrap things up then. I suppose the easiest thing to do is...
Can I say, I wanted to go back on a point that Stuart made earlier on. You said that, as a reader, in a way, you don't particularly want half-hours mediocre content in 3 different mediums, say. But I don't think that has to be the way. I mean, I think if you go out, make a good, say, 1 minute 45 package for a video package, then from there it only takes you a few more phone calls to make a really good print piece. And again, from there it doesn't take you that much to transfer that piece and translate it into an online version. So I don't think you need to settle for a mediocre content on 3 different mediums. I think if you got the training and the skills and you get the practice to be able to transfer the different medium and merge them together, you don't have to settle for that. I think it's possible to be able to have one person do the 3 jobs together. Especially, obviously it's not ideal. Ideally we would want enough jobs around to be able to have 3 people do their own specialism. But given how the industry is nowadays, I think it's important to be able to adapt between the mediums or the mediums, and be able to confidently transfer one version to another and be able to transfer the language and all the different kind of small idiosyncrasies that each medium has to be able to provide great content across all the ways. And I also wanted to go back to what you said about having expert views and expert analysis, and what you said about the economists. It's a lot easier, I think, for the economists to be able to provide content because they have a very specific outlook and a very specific kind of audience as well. It's a lot more difficult for someone who does straight news than from someone who looks at things in a different way. But yeah.
So if anyone's not seen it, the Mail's headline is one of the most classic pieces of journalism I've ever seen.
Especially as the Mail's been investigated more often than the Screws for...
I understand one of the headlines tomorrow is going to be gotcha.
Greenslade came up with that one, did he?
Scout's come up with it there.
Has anyone done We're Hacking Our Boys yet? Anyway, in answer to your point, it's about time management. If you're going to properly do an interview with somebody and research a story and write it up for text, that actually takes time. You know, and in proper journalism, like what I grew up with, then journalists weren't expected to write 5 or 6 stories a day, which they are now. They would write 1 over the course of a day or 2. A good rule of thumb for video editing is, you know, for every minute of output, you should do an hour of editing, as well as filming. And audio has its own practicalities and values as well. So it's actually how, and that's without even getting into taking a proper, really, really good news picture, which is an art in itself. Those are 4 entirely different disciplines and 4 entirely different jobs. If someone is capable of producing excellent output on them, that's fantastic. But very, very few journalists are. Most journalists are very, very good at one thing, and that's why they're paid, in the old days, a lot of money to do that one thing. And my point is that the viewer or the reader or the listener has their own criteria by which they judge things. And if a publication is full of mediocre material that's published by overworked staff expected to be multi-skilled across a number of disciplines, and they're competing against the content from your BBC or your Guardian or your Economist, where they have specialist staff doing specialist work, producing very, very high quality material, there's only going to be one winner. On The Economist, you're right that they have a specific audience, but they do straight news within the body of the magazine, and there's nothing radical or new or unusual about understanding your audience and giving them what they expect. Not what they want, but what they expect. And as for the news of the world, God, let's hope the Daily Mail's next. Thank you very much.
Does anyone disagree with Stuart? Anyone got an alternate point of view to that?
I was going to make just a couple of points on stuff that's been said. Paul had mentioned that a rich Scottish benefactor starting or taking over the newspaper. Let's just hope Brian Souter doesn't. No, Brian Souter, let's hope he doesn't get his.
Amen.
That could be horrible. But another point I was thinking of was that in terms of paper products, a successful launch recently has been the Eye, which was launched by the Independent. And as far as I know, the sales initially were very strong and very good. And I think they're still holding up. And it's a fairly radical new kind of approach of doing things. And I was reading it the other day and I noticed that they do a summary of tweets, all the best tweets from the past 24 hours, and it's like kind of curatorial approach to online. I think, well, that's the kind of possible model for print to kind of progress and do that. And I think they're kind of doing something very radical and very fresh feeling and feels very light and very relevant with good journalism in it. And I think that's maybe where something like the Sunday Herald magazine is kind of missing a trick, possibly. So, I mean, these kind of couple of thoughts that occurred to me. Also, I mean, like, in terms of, as a journalist, what's your job? Your job is to sell newspapers at the end of the day. That's it. I mean, online, all this kind of stuff is not yet fully monetised and so on, or that is for some people, but not for most. Your job is to sort of sell newspapers, so that's kind of what we need to remember, and that's the constrictions of the situation that we're in. So that's the kind of eternal dilemma, is you've got deadlines, you've got limited resources, you need to do the best you can in the limited time and the limited resources that are there. So in terms of the balance of online and print or whatever, that's essentially the kind of bottom line for us. But just as I said, just the thing about the Eye magazine sort of sprang to mind. Finally, the SNP won their most recent election victory on the back of a very, very strong online campaign. So I wonder if, as they move towards Scottish independence, whatever form that may take, opens up possibilities for fully independent Scottish media, perhaps with some restrictions, border controls on foreign-owned media or something like that, offers opportunities to grow and develop journalism in Scotland and to get back to what we all perceive as being perhaps some kind of golden age, which I'm always wary of that notion of a golden age of anything, but there is, I think, a perception that things were better and things can be better again, so perhaps there's some sort of scope for that to proceed like that on the back of some kind of independent Scotland and on the back of the strength of the online campaign which that party waged.
Al? What was I say? Yeah, no, it was about, again, it was Stuart's point about quality over 3 different media, as it were. You can't do all 3 well, and you see that in more mainstream papers where you can even see that the subbing is kind of going down the toilet. You're seeing more and more mistakes in copy because there are fewer sub-editors doing their job, there are fewer journalists trying to do as much work as twice as many. Martin brings up the point about there's a little bit of hope for print media with the likes of the Eye. The only reason I bought the Eye recently is because I needed to change from the bus. That's the only two reasons. It's the only time I buy a newspaper. If you're going to buy the Eye, or you can just pick up a copy of the Metro. I think it's a nice wee paper, but I think it doesn't really. It's not filling a gap in the market. It's just paring down what they already do, spending money, to maybe make money, or are they making a loss?
Who knows, man? Who knows, man?
All right. Is there anything else anyone wants to raise? Because obviously we've got, like I said, grassroots here. Is there anything anyone feels we've not covered? Is there an area that we've neglected? I think we've done really well.
There was a debate on radio today to do with phone hacking and the parliamentary expenses scandal, and they were kind of asking, what is worse, phone hacking or the expenses? But nobody really asked, what if the expenses scandal was completely broken through phone hacking? Does that justify it?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Hang on a second. Front to back. Public interest.
Is this going to extend all the way?
Yeah.
It's happened again, I'm going to have to rewind this. What I have to say to you is nothing to do with you just saying sorry, so I don't know if you want to take the follow-up.
No, go for it first.
The point I was going to make on the issue I was going to raise was the payment, or non-payment as it were, of student journalists submitting copy to magazines, websites and newspapers, for example. Kieran, we don't mind mentioning here, Kieran has contributed quite a lot to the Scotsman recently in the sports section, a lot of very good quality articles, and he's received not a dime, as I understand. And I know various other people on the course like it, and how big a problem I think that is. I mean, it can be quite disheartening in some ways. Sometimes you got other things that make contacts, etc., things like that. But I think it's a problem where people can feel as if they're kind of pushing against glass a lot of it. They're putting in all this hard work and pushing other things, and they're just simply not getting paid. So I think that's something that might need to be addressed, going forward as well.
Can I say as a sort of recent student journalist?
Can I just check a very quick triple? Is anyone here again at that problem where they've done an unpaid internship or they've submitted copies and just not been paid? Here's that.
Unpaid internship, I think.
Right, I've got the camera name and shape, everyone. Say exactly which paper it was you didn't get paid by, or which organisation. We'll go around, everyone put your hand up. Put your hand up again. Okay, first of all. Listing Clyde and Forth Press. Yeah.
The less BBC scandals.
Right. Who else?
The big issue, and STV.
Settle back for anyone
John Barton advertising.
Scotsman, Press Association, Herald.
Well, no, I wanted to tell you. I got paid by the Scotsman for an article that I hadn't submitted because I did it when I was going for a press agency. Invoiced them.
Going to give him the money then?
Invoiced them.
All this out.
Invoiced them. Just invoiced them.
Bad news, I shall beat my press.
Right, have we got all this on camera? All of these papers and all these organisations have been named and shamed tonight, alright? And it is a big problem because there is an exploitation issue. I know the NUJ have been working in
Is it
terms
not
of a
illegal
campaign.
now to have an unpaid internship?
Not yet.
It was.
I need qualified, it was a Helensburgh advertiser.
Paul, do you want to say very quickly about the NUJ's campaign?
Yeah. We've challenged it. We've challenged this, and we've had a lot of political supporters, as Craig says, but not looking at trying to make it illegal. But we've just entered into an agreement with NewsQuest, who were one of the biggest corporates as well, where they were exploiting people on work experience. And we're going to be doing some training with them, and we're going to make sure that people are paid, and we've got an agreement with them covering that. So that's the first stage. We've also approached other companies like Trinity and Johnston Press. Interesting that a lot of the names that came up there were all Clyde and Forth. So more than happy at speaking to their editor-in-chief, Tom McGonigal. I won't say any more about Tom because I'm on film. But I'll certainly give him a ring tomorrow and just say that we'll be looking to enter into an agreement with them on future work experience and payment for the students. Mark's head no, because actually editor.
What's that horrible desperate sound?
So name and shaming is really the way forward. There's absolutely no doubt about it. So that kind of information on the list and Clyde and Forth, who seem to be the biggest corporates, and the Scotsman. I mean, we've got quite a good relationship with the Scotsman. Anyone who wants to give me any details, if you're an NUJ student member, we'll pursue it for you. Absolutely. No doubt about it.
It's not just through journalism. I did 2 weeks at the BBC doing work experience as a researcher. Never got paid for that either. So it's not just straight journalism. It covers.
But where did you apply for a work experience position with them?
Yes.
Because they've got fixed work experience criteria. Right. So there's genuine work experience.
There's a difference, between
there's
the
a
work
difference.
experience and actual, if you've submitted a copy, if you've been doing an internship or whatever, and you've been screwed over on payment. If you have, do absolutely get in touch with Paul, get in touch with NUJ, and we'll, if nothing else tonight, we can try and get people some money that they actually owed. If there's one thing that comes out tonight that people get a bit of beer money, that's a good advantage. Right, I suppose it's 10 o'clock. Let's wrap things up. I just want to thank you very much to everybody that's come out tonight. I know obviously everyone's had the distraction of wanting to watch Sky News and see what's been going on, and everyone wants to get back tonight to watch Question Time because Hugh Grant's on it. So that should be fun if nothing else. We'll do a very quick Q&A if you want. If anyone's got any questions they want to ask of Paul or Craig or myself, Stuart's liked it unfortunately because he's a big pussy and he's gone back to Edinburgh. But if anyone's got any questions they want to ask, do feel free. Otherwise, we'll be kicking about the bar for a little bit as well, and we'll answer questions of that as well. But thank you very much to everyone who's come along tonight. Hopefully we've tried to raise some issues. Hopefully we're not going to solve the issues in journalism, but we've raised, I think, a lot of really important points tonight. And the value of an event like this, and a group like this, the Press Club, is that it can be a crucible for change. The one thing that Scottish journalism really lacks at the moment is a crucible where ideas can come together, people can collaborate, they can come in and say, well, I've got this skill, you've got that skill, let's get together and we can do something with it. And if nothing else out of tonight, hopefully we've got some ideas, start to get thinking, well, what can we do? What can we do to change our position? What can we do to change what we do in the industry? What can we do to change our job? How can we basically future-proof ourselves? Because God knows, what we've seen today at News Award, what we're seeing in a couple of weeks' time at the Record, what, Paul's talking about potentially at the Herald as well. That's just the start of it. Jobs are continuing to go in this industry, and we really need to be, as an industry, focused on how best we protect ourselves as well as protect journalism. So, if nothing else, please do keep showing support for the Scottish Press Club. It's a great idea, and Martin and Christiane have done a fantastic job in getting this organised the last couple of weeks, or couple of months, sorry. And do please keep supporting each other and try and find a way we can work together and find out, as I said, a crucible of forge for ideas and for concepts that might actually future-proof this industry. Right, thank you very much.